Hi, I'm Josh McGrath,
I'm Andrew Haas.
and this is the Ardent Pursuit Podcast. Happy New Year and welcome to 2026. With the start of a new year, this means a lot of men are doing what they always do this time of year, thinking about changing without actually deciding to change. New calendars, new gym memberships, new intentions. But if we're honest, most of those won't make it past February. And here's why. A new year doesn't automatically give you direction. Time passes whether you choose a direction or not. Most men don't ruin their lives, they just slowly drift through them. They exist, they get by, they stay busy, but they don't actually move with purpose. And if you don't set a direction, you will still end up somewhere, just not somewhere you chose. Vision is not motivation. Vision is direction. And direction doesn't just happen accidentally. Setting a vision takes intentionality, it takes work, it takes time. Time to think, to assess, to be honest, to decide. It's hard, and that's why most men avoid it. It's easier to scroll, it's easier to stay vague, it's easier to say, I'll figure it out as I go. But a year from now, you'll either be glad you slowed down and did this work, or you'll be wondering where another year went. So today, we're not talking about resolutions. We're talking about building a clear vision for your life in 2026, one that gives structure to your decisions and momentum to your effort. You don't need to have everything figured out, but you do need to stop just existing for another year. So Andrew, I always love this time of year because we get to talk about setting a vision for your life. And let's be honest, most men, we don't tend to set a vision on paper. We have aspirational ideas, we have dreams, we have hopes that we oftentimes can't even articulate or reference. But this entire episode, much like we did last year, is geared towards forcing men to sit down and actually write out what their vision is for 2026.
It is such a healthy exercise that every guy needs to engage in. And yeah, too often, as you mentioned, we are good at setting goals. And but often we should even, goals are good. We should do that more. But they are not a substitute for vision. They're different, and guys will often interchange them. But we're here to specifically talk about setting a vision, what that means, and why you should do it.
A favorite verse when I talk with other men about vision is Proverbs 29:18. That says, where there's no vision, the people perish. And sometimes what men can miss in that verse is this idea of perishing. The verse doesn't say where there's no vision, you don't do well, or life is harder. It actually talks about perishing. And we're not necessarily talking about death here, but we are talking about direction, growth, maturity, health, opportunity. All of those things may perish as a result of you not having a vision for your life. And this isn't just a 1 year thing. This is a year after year after year thing.
Yeah, modern culture and modern life, at least in this country and a lot of other places, has really enabled men to just exist and not really need to set a vision for their life. And a lot of guys could say, what's the big deal? I'm fine. I don't really need vision. And on one hand, yeah, you'll survive, you'll make it through life. But setting a vision really turns you from someone just existing, someone just kind of drifting through life, to someone with purpose, intentionality, and really long-term results.
Life is so easy as a Western man, as a Westerner, for both men and women. And so you go to your 9 to 5, you do your job, you got your apartment, you got your friends group, you've got your routine, and you just do that. And you blink, and next thing you know, you're a decade older. I remember, this is many years ago, I was sitting down with my older sister and we were having a conversation, and I was just asking her, she was about to turn 30, and I was asking her, what is the vision for the next decade? And we had a conversation where she didn't really have much of a vision planned out for the next decade. And I remember telling her, saying, if you don't plan out a vision, you're going to blink and you're going to be turning 40. And my sister turns 40 this coming year, which is crazy to think about. And it's amazing. How did a decade go by already? But that's what happens. Life just moves on. Whether we participate with a plan or not, it's going to happen around us. And our goal is to wake up men out of the stupor of easy living and say, do something with your life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do everything. You don't have to be the most famous, the most rich, the most successful. Do something so that 365 days from now, you're not the same exact man that you were.
So the blessing that we have in our modern living has created the shadow side where men might not feel motivated or feel the need to create a vision. Or, like me, I've tried, in the early days, I would sit down and try to create a vision for my life, for my family. And it's like, holy cow, this is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes so much thought to do it well. It takes a lot of thought, a lot of practice. You write it, you rewrite it, you edit, you revise. And at the end of the day, you can be thinking like, holy cow, like why am I doing this? What am I putting all this work in for? It's just this like stupid paragraph on a piece of paper. And what men need to realize is that you look at any successful business, everything is very clearly laid out. If you want to have a successful life, you need to have things clearly laid out. And that's really what a vision is. And for guys who don't have a vision, trust me when I say it's worth it to have a vision, put in the work, put in the hard work, at least initially.
Mm-hmm.
It'll get easier over time as things shift and change. But if you put in the hard work to create a vision for your life, it's really going to serve you well.
I oftentimes think about how passivity really undermines our ability to execute on a vision or even execute to create a vision.
Mm-hmm.
Men historically, let's go all the way back to Adam, have struggled with the sin of passivity. Yeah. And the ease of the modern lifestyle has made men exponentially more passive than they've ever been before.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually alarming how passive, by and large, men in American culture are.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to recognize that we are susceptible to being super passive when it comes to creating vision and then executing on a vision.
Yeah.
And what we're going to talk about today, we're going to examine 8 areas of vision for a man's life. And these 8 areas are meant to be tools and resources in your hands to help you as a man break out of that passivity, to push through and to not just create a vision, but then to actually spend the next 365 days following through on it.
Yeah, and you mentioned passivity, and I think that is arguably the biggest problem facing men. Because too often, as guys, we love certainty. And men categorically will often just shy away from uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And that's really where passivity will grow and kind of take over our lives. The typical guy, what's the stereotype? Men, when they're good at something, they put their heart and soul into it. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they're good at it and there's a certainty there. They know what they're good at. They know there will be a certain outcome. But if you ask a guy to do something that he's not good at, all of a sudden there's a ton of question marks. It's a big unknown. And there are many areas in a guy's life where there are big unknowns, big question marks, lack of certainty. But those are still areas that as a guy we need to move into. And so these 8 areas are going to help men to bring clarity, bring some focus around what we need to pay attention to.
And part of what we want men to do as they're developing a vision for their life is to utilize the SMART framework. Mm-hmm. What does the S stand for? SMART. Stands for specific. And then you've got measurable. Mm-hmm. You've got actionable.
Yep.
You've got the R, which is something. Relevant. Relevant. And then time bound. So we want the men who are building their visions to use this because it is very easy to write aspirational ideas, such as, we'll get to this eventually, but say you've got a physical goal and you write down, have a 6-pack. Yeah. That's a very aspirational goal for like 99% of men. So don't do that.
Right.
Write something that is actually realistic.
Yes, that would be a bad vision.
So let's dive in here to begin looking at these 8 areas of vision. The first one we're going to talk about is spiritual. Arguably, by far the most important one. And we're not going to unpack this thoroughly, but this really has to do with your spiritual disciplines. So reading your Bible, prayer, worship, journaling, fasting, praying, generosity, tithing, things like that. Your spiritual practices as a Christian man really matter. And one of the things that happens in the Christian walk very easily is you just kind of fall into your routine. I go to church on Sundays, and I pray, at maybe a prayer meeting or before a meal, and I occasionally read my Bible. But what we need to do is to set fresh vision, find a new reading plan. Don't just do the same reading plan you've done every year. Figure out a new strategy for how you're going to pray. Maybe attend a prayer meeting or start a prayer meeting with a group of guys. Pray at a different time or in a different location. Figure out how you can be different, how you can set a fresh vision for your spiritual health.
And this one is really, it's first because it is the most important. The rest really won't matter without this one in place. It's really important for guys to understand. This one is so important. It is not the only pillar, but it is the most important one. And if a guy doesn't get this part down, if the spiritual part of his life is not in order, the rest of his life over time won't matter much.
And when you're particularly single, being disciplined in your spiritual habits and formation really matters, because someday, should you be married or have a family, that discipline is going to be needed for the health and success of your wife and your family. You can't rely on somebody else to have those spiritual disciplines. You as the man, you as the leader, you as the head of the household, you as the covering of your wife must have those spiritual disciplines in place.
Yes, put slightly different way, the spiritual disciplines make the other disciplines make sense. You can have other disciplines in your life, but over time, they're not really going to have value, or they're not really going to carry weight without the spiritual anchor that makes everything else make sense. And the second area of vision is relational. It is so important for men to be in a relationship with other men, specifically healthy men, peers, and older men specifically. Although every guy should be in relationship with younger men, be mentoring them, be teaching them in some capacity. But too many guys just don't put in the effort to build relationships with other men, or it's just not something they even focus on. And for most guys, that's not our natural tendency. That doesn't mean it's not important. And too many of us will focus on what we think is important, and we just ignore the rest. Relationships are so important, and it's something that every guy needs to prioritize.
For many men, it's easy to actually fall back on building friendships with women. So they don't have very many friendships with men in their life. They don't have a brotherhood surrounding them, but they're friends with a lot of different women. And that's unhealthy for men. Men need other men to hold them accountable. Men need other men to set an example. Men need other men to shoulder the burden and responsibility of life with. We have been created for relationship with God, but also one another. And what men need to be successful in living out a life of honor and glory to God is walking in relationship with other men. Now, it doesn't mean that that's the sole limit of relationships. Obviously not. Be friends with women. We did an entire episode on that, whether you can be friends with women. So we'll tell our listeners to go back and listen to that. Pursue a relationship. Get married. Have a family. Those relationships really do matter. But particularly if you're single, and if you don't have a brotherhood of men in your life who know you, who love you, who trust you, who can speak candidly to you and call you out on your crap and your sin, then in 2026, you need to prioritize building those relationships with other men.
Well, and that's actually a really good clarification, because we're not just talking about, friends to hang out, friends, where there's a casual relationship. This is men being intentional and purposeful on being in a relationship with other men.
Yep.
That is so important. Now, that's not the only thing, right? Guys
course.
should have casual fun,
Yep.
hang out, right? There's space for that.
Yes.
But the foundation is going to be men in intentional relationship with other men.
Yep. Now, the third area of vision we're going to examine is physical. And what we're talking about here is health and fitness. We live in a very sedentary world.
Yeah.
Most men have jobs, vocations, lifestyles that don't require them to be very physical. And therefore, we are very unhealthy, not to mention what we consume, what we eat, what we drink. And so part of what men need to have a vision for is how are they stewarding their body? How are they being physically active, and what are they eating? What are they putting into it to care for it? Because a generation of unhealthy, overweight, unable to move, unable to, open the jar for the ladies because you're so weak and so fat is so unhelpful. And men need to sit down and examine critically their lifestyle choices. The goal is not to become a gym rat, to become a J. Crew model, to look like Magic Mike here. The goal is, how do I be healthy?
Yes.
And that's going to look different for every man, but there has to be some type of vision for that.
Absolutely. And that is such a key distinction there. The challenge for men is that we either veer toward nothing, because again, modern life has afforded
Total
us
unhealth.
that luxury, or we often veer toward a much smaller subset of us, veer toward the gym rat.
Yeah, like obsessive behavior.
Yeah. And all we do is work for the beach body.
Yep. Which obviously I've done this year.
I mean, you need to
it's clear.
slow down.
Like,
Okay?
I should probably take my shirt off, but I'm going to leave it on. I don't want any of the listeners to be jealous with how chiseled these abs are.
Little humble brag for the fans.
Little
you
humble
know?
brag for the fans. For those who are listening, they're missing out.
They are.
Because I am busting out of this shirt, but not with muscle.
So guys need to find that middle ground.
Yes, find it, because I clearly have not. I've just rolled over it, waddled over.
If you've busted out of your outfit due to fat or
Yes.
due to muscle.
Yes, either way, find the middle ground.
Too much on either end. Guys need to find that middle ground.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that's really challenging for us.
It is.
And the fourth area is mental health. And by that, we mean what we consume, what we put into our minds. Social media, news, all of it. It is really important for guys to pay attention, really pay close attention to what you watch, what you consume, because it really matters. It's one of those things that really shows itself in the long term.
Yeah.
But it's a really easy way to become a much healthier man, is being very careful about what you consume.
It's so easy to passively consume content.
Yeah.
Particularly if you have social media. You can scroll endlessly through videos, and the algorithm hates you and is going to show stuff that does not make you happier or healthier. And so as a result, men will consume, whether it's 15 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, but collectively over the course of a year, you're talking hundreds of hours consuming content that is not beneficial to them. And same thing happens with news. We're inundated with news stories, podcasters, etc. And what happens is that becomes a steady diet that we consume, and it begins to affect our mental well-being. It's no wonder that mental health issues like depression or anxiety are increasing among men. And unfortunately, a lot of anxiety or depression issues are resolved by men turning to things like alcohol, pharmaceuticals, or drugs, where they become reliant on some external source to help them cope with how they're feeling. And in reality, the fix is probably just get rid of social media and stop reading the news. Stop playing video games. Stop watching TV. Stop being addicted to movies.
Yes.
Stop that, and you're probably going to find yourself much healthier. Go outside, touch grass, look at the sun, go on a hike. That will do wonders for your mental health.
Yeah, men need to understand that social media does not have your best interest in mind. Social media is not there to show you what is helpful. You can think of it as like fast food, right? You don't go to Taco Bell, Burger King,
Ever, just as a rule.
ever.
Yes,
Let
but-
alone for like a healthy meal.
Exactly.
It's understood these companies are there to make a profit.
Yep.
That's it. Now, our bodies, what we taste is often what we judge something by, food-wise, right? If it tastes good, okay, we'll eat it with little regard to the actual nutrition of it. With social media, we might think we're seeing things that we like, but it's much like we taste things that we'll eat. They're actually pretty bad for us. We'll watch things, we'll consume social media that we think we like, and we do kind of on the surface, but it's actually really unhealthy for us.
That's a really good point. And if men start off this year by deactivating their social media, which might be really hard for some guys, and they just get off the internet as much as possible, they're actually going to find that this is going to be a really good year for them.
And the interesting thing to that point is that for the guys that would struggle the most with that idea are the ones that need it the most.
It's true. All right, so number 5 is financial. I love this area because no matter how little or how much money you make, you need to steward those financial resources well. So this is about the amount that you're making. This is your budget. This is what you're saving. This is your tithing, your generosity. All of this falls under the category of financial.
Yeah.
And a lot of men will disqualify the financial vision aspect of their life because they say, well, I just make too little.
Right.
And there's never an amount that you can make that's too little that doesn't require you to have vision, because even the woman with 2 mites in the Bible, which I believe doesn't even equal 1 cent, which they no longer make, praise the Lord. So she's got 2 mites. She had a vision for what she was going to do with those 2 mites.
Yeah.
She was going to give them away. She was going to sow and invest those.
Yes.
So no matter how little you have as a man, you need to have a vision for your finances.
And too many guys actually fall into the trap of, they basically will say, well, if I had more money, then I wouldn't have these financial issues. The reality is bad financial decisions is completely separate from how much money you make.
Yeah.
If you're bad at making financial decisions with a small amount of money, guess what? You're going to be bad at making financial decisions with a lot of money. The only difference is going to be that those decisions with a lot of money are going to have a much bigger impact.
One thing that I should mention here is this idea of debt. So many men have debt, particularly credit card debt. And so if you're going into 2026 holding a bunch of credit card debt or stupid debt because you bought a car that was way too expensive for you, or I don't know, you bought a vacation package you shouldn't have, or whatever other dumb thing you bought, you need to prioritize getting out of debt. Go to Financial Peace University, listen to some Dave Ramsey, apply it in your life, eat rice and beans for the next 12 months so that come December, you can be either debt-free or very close to debt-free. That will revolutionize your 2026 if you're able to pay down a bunch of debt. Will it be hard? Will it take sacrifice?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. But man, what a difference that will make in your life, particularly as you're looking to the next year, 2027.
More guys need to buy into we have this saying in our family, we do hard things. And it's a pithy, overly simplified family vision, if you will. Meaning if there's something hard or challenging in front of us, we don't shy away from it simply on the merits of it being hard.
So that's why you guys have been inviting me over so much. I got it.
Ministry
You
opportunity.
guys are leaning into the hard thing.
We are leaning in. And so too many guys, when we're faced with something hard or challenging, we look for an easier path. When in reality, doing the hard, uncomfortable thing, that's the very thing that produces results.
That's true. And so when it comes to financial responsibility, men need to be ready to lean into the difficulty of either getting another job or budgeting, saving, or paying down debt.
Yeah. And number 6 is intellectual. Too many men will plateau and kind of their intellect will kind of atrophy. We lose our curiosity. We lose our interest in learning something new. But there's a period early on where it's kind of all we do, right? When we're in school, all we're doing is learning. And then we graduate, we find what we're good at, or we find a career, a job, we focus on that. And curiosity, desiring to learn, even learning new things, those things kind of fall to the wayside. But men need to make learning a lifelong pursuit.
With the advent of AI, we as a human species are becoming dumber
Yes.
at a far faster rate than I ever thought possible. And we need to fight against the natural tendency to rely on AI or the internet to just give us the regurgitated answer real quick. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't use AI or the internet. It's a very helpful tool. But what that has created, along with social media, is an ADHD culture where we have a hard time focusing for any length of time. I see it in church every Sunday. It's a 30-minute sermon, and people in our generation, or particularly younger, have to be scrolling something on their phone.
Isn't that crazy?
They're not even like taking notes. They're listening, but they've got to be scrolling. And what we've done is created a culture where the idea of stimulating our intellect is exhausting, so we passively consume in these intense, short stints because that's what we are accustomed to. That's what we've been conditioned for. And men need to break out of that. Pick up a book, research something online, go through. I mean, Wikipedia is like very agenda driven, but it's a useful tool. Just start reading Wikipedia articles. Do something to be curious about life, to be curious about other things, and to learn.
And for guys, that can often mean having an honest look at our interaction and our relationship with tech, specifically our phones. Too often, they are in a unhealthy place. We are too focused. We allow these devices to have an outsized place in our lives. And men would be well served to retrain their relationship with these devices. You know, it's not enough to simply stop doing one thing and reorient your energy towards something else. You know, there was this is going back a little while, but take YouTube for example. There was a point in time where I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop watching YouTube. Well, that doesn't suffice, because what happens? You go to Hulu, or you go to Netflix,
Exactly.
or you go to Disney Plus.
Yep.
You know, whatever it is, it's like you can't just stop doing the one thing because the habit is still there.
Yeah.
You're just going to pivot and put that energy into something equally unhelpful. And so it's not necessarily enough to just stop doing something, because what often happens is a guy will just pivot, and that unhelpful energy just goes into something else unhelpful. So you have the same problem.
So this next area, number 7, is creative. And I think sometimes men might assume that doesn't apply to them if they're not in the arts. But creative is not just if you're artistic. This is not only for the musicians, the dancers, and the painters. This is really for anyone that wants to grow in creative understanding or abilities. And some of the creative things that you can grow in are even things like how to resolve conflict, or creative ideas for business solutions, or creative business ideas. So you could think of it almost as being entrepreneurial. That takes a creative aspect. And I know a lot of men who aren't artistic at all, but boy, are they creative with solutions when it comes to fixing cars or furnaces. They're like the MacGyver in that moment to figure out a solution that works.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. Sometimes the solution to a very mundane or boring problem can be very creative. And so, yeah, creativity isn't necessarily artistic. Creativity is one of the intrinsic attributes that we've been given by God. It makes us unique. And guys need to value and prioritize creativity. And if creativity is not a regular, recurring part of a guy's life, yeah, that's a great time to stop and think, okay, what can I do to better have creative expression in my life?
Because you're either creating or you're consuming.
Yeah.
And so if you're never creating something, then you're just solely consuming.
And a great little, a quick way for guys to think about this is, am I creating more than I'm consuming? And for me, rarely is that the case.
Yeah.
But that is the goal. The goal for every guy should be, I create more than I consume. Very hard for the vast majority of men.
Yep.
But that is how men need to orient. That is how we should be focusing our effort. And number 8 is the practical, which some of us might think of as boring, but none the less important. These are the little things or the big things, buying a car, paying your bills, hygiene, all the little things in life that aren't so little that actually add up and make us who we are.
A lot of men won't have a vision for these things because, like you said, they're oftentimes boring. But having a vision for, I don't know, purchasing a car and working towards that is really good.
Yeah.
I actually, part of my vision for 2025 was to save up and then purchase a high quality Taylor guitar. I've wanted one for many years. I use it for small group worship. I use it for my own personal worship. And I was like, I just need to get this. And throughout the year, wasn't sure when I was going to do it. I would look here and there. And then finally, it was early fall. I was like, now's the time to do this. I'm going to put time and energy into researching, into locating, and to obtaining a Taylor guitar. And I'm proud to say that I found one for a great price and great condition and went and picked it up. And now I have it. And it's easy to say, well, that's just a silly thing. But at the beginning of the year, I wrote that down as part of my vision for 2025. And so men shouldn't discount the little things and say, well, I don't need a vision for that. It will just happen. I'll just get a job, or I'll just buy a car, or I'll just pay all the bills. Maybe you will. But it's amazing how when you set a vision for that, it changes how you approach it. It might not change the thing, but it changes your approach to it.
Yes, and it really comes down to, what are the weaknesses that you have? For a guy, he might be habitually late. He might not have a Sabbath. He might, you can name the problem.
Sure.
And that all comes down to, we have so many resources at our disposal. And so men can really lean into simple things, right? Use a calendar for better scheduling your time. You can use alarms, reminder apps for all sorts of things. These can help better structure your life and really help you have a vision and orient you toward, hey, I want to enact these changes. I want to be here in 5 years. And there are so many things at our disposal that if we actually utilize them, they'll get us there.
Yes, absolutely. So these are the 8 areas of vision. And really, the purpose behind all of this is to help men, to help all of us, I do this, to be able to look at our life and say, where do I want to be 1 year from now? We don't want to be the same exact type of man. We want to see forward momentum. We want to see forward progress. We want to see change. That's what we're called to do, not only as believers, but also as men. So gentlemen, vision is not motivation. Vision is direction, and direction changes everything. We covered 8 areas of vision today. Not because your life needs to be perfect in all of them, but because your life needs a framework. So here are your next steps. First, ask yourself this question. Where do I want to be exactly 1 year from now? Not 5, not someday, 1 year. Second, write down one concrete goal in each area. Make it specific, make it measurable, and give it a deadline. Third, identify what you must say no to. Most progress doesn't come from adding more things to our life. It actually comes from removing what's killing our momentum. And finally, fourth, decide what you're going... Sorry, it was ahead of me.
Sorry, okay.
What? Let me read it. Go up just a little bit. What does it say?
Third?
Fourth.
Fourth.
Decide. Oh, I did say decide. Decide what you're going...
Continue.
Decide what you're going to do consistently. Decide what you're going to do consistently, not occasionally. Decide what you're going to do.
Decide what you're going to do. Or maybe we could just say, yeah, I mean, you wrote it. If you want to say it, do you want to say it? Or do you want to change it? You could say focus on consistency, because consistency beats intensity every time.
Say that.
Fourth, focus on consistency.
Because consistency.
Because consistency beats intensity every time. Okay?
All right.
Look at that, we're improving.
Good. All right. So, gentlemen, vision is not motivation. Vision is direction, and direction changes everything. We covered 8 areas of vision today, not because your life needs to be perfect in all of them, but because your life needs a framework. So, here are your next steps. First, ask yourself this question. Where do I want to be exactly 1 year from now? Not 5 years, not someday, 1 year. Second, write down one concrete goal in each area. Make it specific, make it measurable, and give it a deadline. Third, identify what you must say no to. Most progress doesn't come from adding more things to our life, it comes from removing what's killing our momentum. And fourth, focus on consistency, because consistency beats intensity every time. To help you do this, we've created a simple vision mapping Google form. You can find it linked to in the show description or through the links in our socials. Use it to slow down, to think clearly, and to actually put your vision on paper. And finally, don't keep this to yourself. Share your vision with other men who will give you honest feedback and hold you accountable. You don't need to have it all figured out. Just start now. Don't waste another year. Thanks for joining us here on the Art and Pursuit podcast, and we wish you a happy new year.